Head over to BoardGamePrices.com to find the best price and availability for thousands of games. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and next week is the big Origins Game Fair in Columbus, Ohio. It's the second biggest game convention in the United States, and I always love going there. So now today, I'm gonna go over my top 10 most anticipated games that are gonna be there. Now these 10 games are all going to be for sale there. I'm not doing any that are just demos or anything like that. All of these you can get. So without further ado, let's get started.
Number 10.
All right, number 10 is Crusoe Crew. Now, this is from Van Ryder Games, and last year they came out with the graphic adventure novels. These were sort of choose your own adventure books with great different artwork and different themes like Western and, horror and mansions and Sherlock Holmes. And so now they're coming out with basically, instead of a solo version, this is a 1 to 4 player choose your own adventure style book where you're going to be going through with other people and trying to, solve things. So you're essentially playing Children of Robinson Crusoe. Now, everyone gets their own book, and each book is you're one of the characters in the game, and each of them has sort of asymmetric powers. For example, one of them is able to, talk to an animal, and so you can see here on the screen the different things that some of the different books of the characters can do. So how it works is you're going through and you're going to be looking at different numbers of places you can go, and you all decide together where to go, and you all go to that page, and you're sort of going through this adventure together. But there are examples here that show, like, with those special abilities, like for here, this one here can actually talk to the mouse, but they're the only one that can see the mouse in their book. No one else can see it. So it's like, okay, hold on guys, before we get to this gate, I can see this mouse, I can talk to them, that's my special ability. So they'll go to another page and maybe they'll find something that they can use to get to the gate code. So it's just a cool twist on that solo, choose your own adventure where you're working together and everyone has different things that they can possibly do to help out. And I just think that sounds like a cool idea.
Number 9.
Number 9 is Spy Master. This is from Calliope Games. Now this uses 2 mechanisms that I love, and 2 of them I've never seen put together before. One, you're basically spies and you're trying to move around and you're trying to do area control. That's one mechanism I really love. But before that, you're doing sort of an I split you choose, where whoever is the active player that round is going to get some different some intelligence or intel cards. And these cards are going to allow you to do different things, but they're basically going to bring out a certain amount of cards and they're going to split them up into an equal amount of, piles depending on the amount of players, and then they're the last one to pick. So they're going to split them up, everyone else picks, they get what's left over, and then based on those, you're going to take actions and move around, and you're trying to do area control, you're trying to meet mission requirements, and you're trying to claim mission cards now. So this is cool. I split you choose, but you're going to try to figure out where are they going, where am I going. It just sounds like a cool idea of putting those 2 things together. It's 2 to 6 players, and it takes about 30 to 60 minutes to play.
Number 8.
The next one is Ringmaster, Welcome to the Big Top. I love sort of circus themes. This is from Stoneblade Entertainment. I believe it will be at the Ultra Pro booth at Origins, and I love circus themes. And the best way I can sort of describe this after looking and researching this is, I think this is like a sort of a gamer version of Love Letter meets a more controlled Flux. Where there's going to be win conditions that are going to change throughout the game, but it's much more controlled than Flux. You have more control over it, it's not as chaotic, things will change, and you have to sort of change with them. Essentially, you just start with 3 cards, on your turn you're just going to draw one and play one, and then you're just going to use the ability on that card. It's very simple. You'll have stars and attractions that basically are played in front of you. You'll have event cards that trigger effects, and you'll have sideshow cards that get played in front of opponents and do certain things. But it seems like sort of one of those things that's sort of a simple concept, but with all the different cards and the changing winning conditions that every game's going to sort of play out a little bit differently. And it's a 2 to 4 player game, plays in 15 minutes. It's like a little filler game, but it seems like a more in-depth version of sort of a love letter type of thing. So I'm kind of interested in this, and I love the theme.
Number 7.
The next one is called Among Thieves. This is from Indie Boards and Cards. Now this is sort of a social deduction game where you're going to win by having the most money, However, the player with the least honor at the end is eliminated. So you can't be too bad and have the most money, or you just won't win. So like throughout the different rounds, teams are chosen. One person will be the one choosing teams, sort of like Avalon or some of the other old ones. And everyone chooses to be either honorable or dishonorable, secretly. And then they'll reveal, and then if everyone's honorable, there'll be a certain amount of cards taken out and flipped up based upon the amount of players, and the total money gained from all those cards everyone gets. But if one or more is dishonorable, only the dishonorable players get the money, but they're gonna get twice the value of the cards. But when that happens, all the honorable gain in honor, and all the dishonorable lose in honor. And again, if you have the most dishonorable at the end, even if you have the most money, you lose. So it seems like a very, I love that thing that it's sort of like how corruption works in a lot of the games, like Lords of Waterdeep and Cleopatra, Society of Architects, where if you get too much of something that's bad, it really helps you advance in the game, but if you get too much, you can't win. I've always loved that mechanism, and to have that in this sounds cool. This is for 3 to 8 players, 30 to 45 minutes among Thieves from Indie Boards and Cards.
Number 6.
The next one is called Tricky Tides. Now, this is a trick-taking game. I am a sucker for trick-taking games. I love them. Anytime something comes out that seems a little different, I'm usually all about it. So not only does it have trick-taking game, it also has a pick-up and deliver mechanism with it. And I also love sometimes where you mix trick-taking with other things, like, Jiraku was like area control with trick-taking, stuff like that. So in this game, you're using tricks to travel from island to island and collecting goods or delivering them when you get there to earn the most gold. So you're gonna play tricks. The highest in the lead suit gets to sail first. And the cards that you play actually tell you which directions you can travel. So sometimes you're gonna play cards to try to win. Sometimes you're gonna try to play cards to hope maybe you win, but maybe go in a different direction. So that sounds kind of cool. Also, you're trying to, as you deliver sets of goods, you're going to collect cards that have monsters that you've sighted, and you're trying to set collect with these monsters with basically you have some hidden end game goals that you're given at the beginning of the game. So it seems like there's just enough going on to make it sort of trick-taking with a twist, which is what I like. And this is for 2 to 4 players, 30 to 45 minutes. It's from Gold Seal Games, but it's going to be at this 25th Century Games booth. This is called Tricky Tides.
Number 5.
The next one's actually not a game. It's a little cheat here. It's an expansion, but it's an expansion game I love, Kanagawa. This is called Yokai Expansion. Now, this is an expansion for Kanagawa where you're mixing in more of the same, but adding just a little bit of different mechanisms. In the game, essentially, you're now adding. Now, in the original game, you were painting trees and animals and characters and buildings. And now you can possibly be painting lanterns and kites, and things like that. So and also umbrellas. And so what happens is you actually take 2 of the ones from the base game and 2 of the ones from the expansion, mix them together, and you play. So you have a lot more replayability. But the cards work a little bit different too. Like the kites, you have to have a certain amount of kites on. The umbrellas. You need a certain amount of umbrellas on consecutive cards. Other ones give you this yokai tokens. When you do that, you take these little yokais in front of you, and you can try to get the yokai bonus. However, if you at the end of the game, each of those yokais are worth negative points. So you kind of want to get them quickly in the beginning of the game, be the first to get that bonus tile, then get rid of them. So just another mechanism in there, and then each of the different 3 types that you could possibly use sort of have new diplomas that you're going for, and just different ways that you're trying to collect things. So it looks like just a little bit of a twist with more beauty to a game that I already love, Kanagawa Yokai.
Number 4.
The next one is called Conspiracy: The Solomon Gambit. Now this is from Restoration Games, and I can't speak highly enough of them, what they've done with Stop Thief, what they've done with Fireball Island, and now they're coming out with this. This was originally made in 1973, so you're all secret spy agencies trying to just simply get the briefcase back to your headquarters. Now you're secretly paying off agents that are out on the board to move them, but if you try to move one of them, you can be challenged by other players. And if that player that challenged you, you're going to be basically bidding on who's already paid off the most to this person in the past, because it's all done secretly. And if you get challenged and you lose the challenge, well, you can't move them. But if you win, you can move them. And you're trying to move these agents around to get the briefcase to your headquarters. But each of those agents on the board also have special powers. So when you move them, they can do certain things like pulling the briefcase closer, or pushing people out of areas, or doing things like that. So it just seems like a game that's got some intrigue into it. You're little bit of bluffing and things like that. Sounds really interesting. Also, they added a new ending that if the game goes long enough, whoever paid off Dr. Solomon the most would win. But it doesn't do anything for you throughout the game, but if you think the game's going to last long enough, you can try to give them money and be winning at the end, possibly. This is for 2 to 4 players, 30 to 60 minutes, and that's Conspiracy by Restoration Games.
Number 3.
The next one is the heaviest game on this list. This is from Capstone Games. It's called Pipeline. I know a lot of you people out there don't think I play heavy games. I actually do and enjoy them quite a bit when I do find what I like. But I typically have to like the theme, and the longer a game gets and the heavier it gets and the more rules they are, just the better it has to be in order for me to get it out and relearn the rules every time I want to play it and things like that. This is a heavier game. It's an economic game about privatizing the oil market. The government just wants to get out of the oil market and they want to privatize it. So we're all companies trying to be the best at doing that. So it's an economic game, the most money wins, but also has a tile laying, puzzly sort of aspect where you're building your own pipes and your own tiles, all these different pipes going all different directions, and you're using those to, you're going to be getting crude and trying to upgrade that crude to different levels. And depending on how long your pipes are and how they are, you'll be able to do that better. There's all sorts of different contracts you can get, different end game goals. There's a lot of replayability in this game. There's also some action selection through worker placement there. There's some engine building that as you get going each year, you get less and less rounds because you're building engines. So, wow, lots and lots of different things here that all of them speak to me. It is heavier than a game than I typically like, but I think I'm really going to like this one. It's Pipeline from Capstone Games.
Number 2.
All right, number 2 is Century: A New World. This is from Plan B Games, and it's designed by Emerson Matsuuchi. This is the 3rd game in the Century series. They had Century Spice Road, and then they had the one where we're sailing around, and then we have this one. So this version is, the first one, Spice Road, was a card game. You're playing cards, or getting cards, and getting goods, and getting points. The next one was more of like sort of moving around a board and pick up and delivering and doing things like that. And this one is worker placement, which I love worker placement. So basically, you're going to be placing workers. You can place on places where other players have played, but you have to play one more than them, and they get their workers back, which is going to allow them to take more turns without resting, because when you're auto workers or when you want to, you have to spend a whole turn to get all your workers back. So I like that, how you can go somewhere someone is, you pay a little more, and you're benefiting them as well because they get to get their workers back to use without resting. That's a cool thing. I've always liked that sort of mechanism in worker placement. I like that you're activating spots for resources, getting cubes, or trading resources for some cubes for other, or upgrading your cubes to better types. There's also bonus tiles that you can go to that give you basically scoring objectives. And other places you can go to is basically you're turning in cubes, so those goods, for point cards, but those point cards don't just give you points, they also give you some certain icons that are basically, go towards those scoring bonuses. So there's some strategy there where you're getting certain points because you want the icons on those cards and you want to get bonus tiles that go with those. So a little bit more going on there. And also those cards give you different abilities too, which when you go to certain spaces throughout the worker placement, it'll give you some abilities there. So I think it sounds really cool. It does still sound very easy and streamlined. You're either placing a worker or taking them. Those are your only 2 choices. Century does really good with that, keeping things simple, but it looks like there's just enough more going on. It looks like maybe possibly a little bit more complex than the first 2, but it looks really, really good. And of course, you can combine this with the first 2 Century games to have one big epic game. So that is Century: A New World.
Number 1.
All right, my number 1 is another social deduction game. I love social deduction games, or maybe not deduction, but a social league kind of game. It's called We're Doomed from Breaking Games. In this, essentially, the world's coming to an end, and you have a timed 15 minutes to build an escape rocket. But there's not enough seats for everyone. It's for 4 to 10 players. You need resources to build a certain amount of seats in the rocket within the 15 minutes. But influence gets you on board. So you'll be working together to try to build enough seats, but not everyone's going to get on, and you got to have an influence. It seems super interesting. You're either getting resources or influence or stealing from opponents or nuking them and just eliminating them from the game. Each of the players have an asymmetric power, which makes one of the actions that you can take more powerful. And at the end of each round, everyone's contributing a certain amount of resources to the rocket because you're trying to get as many seats as you can. But whoever contributes the most gets to get an event card and go first. And these event cards can be public where something happens, or it can be secret that they don't tell anybody until it happens, or it changes the game in a different way. So a lot of intrigue there as well, a lot of interaction. And another reason why this is on my list because one of my media friends told me that this was the best game they played at the Geek convention here recently in St. Louis. Yes, I'm talking about you, Mr. Alex from the Dukes of Dice podcast. This better live up to your hype, buddy. Anyway, so I've heard good things from my media friends, and this seems right up my alley, and I'm really excited for this. It's called We're Doomed from Breaking Games. All right, well, there is my top 10 games that are for sale at the Origins Game Fair. I hope that I either brought a game to your knowledge that you had never heard of, or maybe even gave you more detailed information about a game that you had heard of. Now you know better or not if you think you might want to go check it out while you're there, or even buy it after the fair or whatever. So this has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games by helping you find the next one you'll love. Game Toppers are the ultimate gaming accessory. After successfully fulfilling their first Kickstarter, Game Toppers are taking the world by storm. Now you can get your own portable gaming top by participating in Game Toppers Kickstarter 2.0 starting June 25th, 2019. New styles, new sizes, and amazing new game mats. Go to GameToppersLLC.com to enter to win a full Game Topper system valued over $1,000 to also bring you to the Kickstarter project page and to late pledge.